When I think about Nepal, the first thing that comes to mind is the Himalayas. You know those really big, tall mountains? The second thing that comes to mind is Kathmandu. But what really doesn't come to mind? It's stray animals. Did you know that in the Kathmandu Valley alone, it has over 100,000 stray dogs? Sneha Shrestha, the founder of Sneha Care, joins me. And wait till you hear all about her journey. It began with not even really being an animal lover to today, where she's this founder of this huge, successful animal sanctuary for hundreds of animals. Her story is pretty incredible. And when you hear it, you're going to think it's even more incredible than what I just said. Now, here's a little tidbit about Nepal. Did you know that in Nepal, they have a 4-day festival, and on the second day, there's this celebration about the bond between humans and dogs? It has a saying that says, every dog has its day. But not only do they celebrate the dogs that day, they feed all the strays on the street, they decorate them with flowers, and they also put a tika, it's that red mark on their forehead, as a mark of respect. It's a manifestation of gratitude for loyalty and companionship that these animals bring to our lives. Pretty cool, right? Guess what? Now, other places are starting to celebrate it too, even here in the US. So get ready to hear Sneha's story. You're just going to really have your heart warmed, and I'm pretty excited for you to hear it. We are supported by PrepVet, providing stem cell therapy for pets.
As a pet lover, did you know your pet can benefit from the incredible healing power of stem cell therapy? Prep Therapy offers a groundbreaking solution taken right from your pet's own blood. Say goodbye to joint pain, arthritis, kidney and liver conditions, and more. They'll experience faster recovery, increased vitality, and extended quality of life without the need for surgery or harmful drugs. Put the wag back in their tail and discover Prep Therapy today at prepvet.com. Save 10% with promo code FurRealPodcast, covered by most pet insurance.
For real, 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 for real. Got a bunch of furry friends and I love them all the same. I'm an animal lover, veterinarian is the name. Let's share some pet stories from heartwarming to strange, losses and gains, from wacky to insane. For real. You're now tuned in to For Real with your host, Mark Kyle.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the For Real Podcast. Today's episode is one that means a lot to me. We've really had a hard time coordinating for a variety of reasons, but I have a really, really special woman that's coming all the way from Nepal to talk to us about something, some great things she's doing. So please, and again, I'm going to try to pronounce properly, and I think I've got it down, but if I don't, please correct me. Please welcome Sneha Shrestha. And she is with Sneha Care, that's an animal welfare organization in Nepal, and she's doing some great things. So Sneha, thanks again for joining me. And I'm going to kind of pass it to you, and we'll just dig in and ask questions and do whatever we do.
Namaste, namaste, Mark, and namaste, everyone. And really, thank you so much for inviting me in your program to share my experience and everything with all animal lovers all over the world. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, thank you. So, what I want to do is what's interesting about your story when I was reading about you and learning, this wasn't your original plan. You were living and I'm just going to say one thing and get started on this, but you had a couple puppies that kind of took you to this path. But before you had your puppies, and Zara we're going to talk about, but what were you doing before you became such an animal person that you are now?
It's a long story. I'll try to make it short. And before I started helping the animals, before I opened Sneha's Care, I was not even an animal lover. I was not even a dog lover. And I was running a trekking agency in Tamil. And most of the tourists, if they have visited ever in Nepal, they must know that Tamil is a touristic area. And I was running a trekking agency. I used to serve tourists, sending them different mountains and selling our tours. So what happened is I never had a plan to open an animal sanctuary, and I never thought that I'll ever help animals and dedicated my whole life to animals. And it's about in 2014, two dogs came in my life, actually, they were not from a shelter, even not from the street. We have more than 100,000 dogs inside the Kathmandu. And I brought them from a kennel club. I paid for that. And I never considered adopting dogs from the street because where I live, there are 1,000 dogs.
Right.
And among these two dogs, one died after 15 days because I kept them in a garage where I used to keep my car, and I kept them in a small cage. I didn't know, even I had no idea, how to take care of those dogs. And uh, and I have no idea how to feed them, how many times I need to feed them. And due to my carelessness, one dog died, and I felt very guilty, and I blamed myself. And immediately I took another puppy inside the house and starting to care for it. As I already said that I was running a trekking agency and I had to go to office, so I had to leave my dogs at home in the yard, realizing that they needed a companionship. And again, I brought another dog, and I named her Zara. And I spent most of my evening and mornings with my dogs, cleaning up after them, feeding them, and grooming them, and taking them for walks. However, when I go to my office, I had to leave them at home. And my neighbors, they complained me about the dogs barking, and I did not take it seriously because they used to complain. And one day, when I returned from the office, my dog Zara was lying and vomiting blood everywhere. I took her to the clinic and I tried to save her. I did everything, whatever I could, but unfortunately, she passed away.
So, just to interrupt real quickly, so based on what I read, did they poison her?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that she was poisoned by my neighbor, and Zara was for me like still I had when I'm saying this sentence, I have a goosebump, like
Right.
she was like my child, like perhaps even more than that. And after her death, I fell into depression. I stopped eating. I stopped going out. I stopped going my office. I locked myself into one room and blamed myself not taking my neighbor's complaint seriously. After a month, I went to complain against my neighbor at the police station. I thought like maybe I could do something, but they laughed at me and they questioning me that why I came to complain about a dog. It was just a dog, you know.
Right.
Then that time, that moment that I realized we don't have any animal law and don't have any animal welfare act. So I couldn't punish my neighbor. This guilt kept me awake. In Hindu ritual that maybe you have read somewhere, and maybe you can Google it as well, that if someone dies in your family, you don't eat salt for 13 days.
I read that. So that's a Hindu tradition when you lose a close person or an animal to you, correct?
Yeah, if they are your family member, if it is your close one, your family member, one family member, that you eat salt for 13 days. And I followed this tradition for my dog Zara. I did not eat salt for 13 days.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I started feeding biscuits in the street, carrying carton of biscuits in my car wherever I see dogs. Like I saw dogs around, I started feeding them. During these feedings, I noticed that many injured and sick dogs, most of them victims of hit and run cases, acid attacks, hot water pouring. Often, most of the cases are abused by humans. And I started rescuing those dogs in my own car, taking them to the private clinics because I did not have any knowledge about, veterinarians.
Mm-hmm.
And since I didn't have a place for many dogs, I requested the kennel club where I bought the two dogs, and I requested that guy to keep my rescued dogs. I had to pay 250 rupees per day for one dog.
One thing, Sneha, just real quick to interrupt, and I apologize for interrupting, is what I read is, and this is for the listeners out there because most of us probably haven't been to Nepal.
Mhm.
Just in the Kathmandu area alone, there's over 100,000. That's right, 100,000 stray dogs running around. So you're driving around seeing all these dogs that are stray that you really hadn't paid attention before, and now you're trying to help them as you can. So I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, yeah. Like only inside, I'm not saying all about the Nepal. Only inside the Kathmandu, we have so many street dogs, and inside Kathmandu Valley, we have more than 100,000 dogs. And now, like Sneha Care is in Lalitpur metropolitan city, and we have recently finished the dog census. And only inside this metropolitan city, we have 9,047 dogs. You can imagine how many dogs here, you know.
Right.
So yeah, most of the people, if they have ever visited here, like they know we have so many dogs in the streets, you know.
What a friend of mine that I was talking to the other day, I had told him he'd gone to actually to Nepal to get married there, so it has a special place for him. He said, again, this is for me the lack of knowledge because I haven't been there, but you see two different kinds of dogs there. You see the bigger dogs, usually the ones that live in with inside the house, and then the stray dogs are usually smaller and all over the place. They're white. A lot of them are white, I guess. Is that true?
No, like you know, like in Nepal, as I said, like we have 100,000 dogs, around 100,000 dogs.
Right,
But what you is still people buying the dogs, you know, like breed dogs,
right.
like say German Shepherd, Great Dane, other kind of breed dogs. Like they
Mhm.
still purchase the dog from the kennel club. That's what I did in the past.
Right, because you didn't know.
Yeah, because I did not. I was not a dog lover, as I said. You know.
Well, I think a lot of people, I think more and more, like I'm just going to use the US as an example. I think more and more now people will get rescue dogs versus going and buying a dog, mainly because people are becoming more aware, similar to you, but maybe different here in particular. But you went through a pretty tragic case of that.
Yeah, the problem is because people don't keep the dogs because they love dogs. They are keeping the dogs because just for the show off. They want to show their neighbor that I have more expensive dog than yours. And when they got sick or something happened, they just abandon them. So that's the reason we have around 170 dogs inside the shelter. Okay, and among them, 25% dogs are from the house, like abandoned one. They are breed dogs, so they are not from the street.
Well, one of the things to get back on your story and your journey that you've got to here to now, one of the things that I read that was just so impressive to me. So you're now going to this kennel, paying to have the dog stay there, but now that at some point some switch went and you became this animal advocate and you sold your house to be able to build your sanctuary.
Yes, I told you that I explained that I had to pay 250 rupees per dog for one dog in the kennel club, and in 1 month the kennel club was full with 50 dogs, my rescue dogs.
Right.
So then after that and I decided to open a shelter and keep my 50 dogs. I that time I was only thinking about those 50 dogs. So I sold my house and I built the shelter that is Sneha's Care. And during that time, I was thinking only about the 50 dogs. And most of the cases I rescued are human abuse case, as I mentioned earlier. And what I decided is like to change the people's attitude and encourage them to love animals. So I created the Facebook page Sneha's Care
Mhm.
and started posting photos and stories of rescued dogs. People began sending me messages asking for help in rescuing and caring for the dogs. And this is how Snatch Care started. And now we have 170 dogs, but beside that, we already helped more than 20,000 animals, who are abused and abandoned and by people.
Well, I've wrote some numbers down and I know they're larger now. This is the direct response to you, one, selling your house and then creating your organization, but you've through spay and neuter are, trying to help birth control At one point, you were close to 12,000 you've been involved with. You've rabies vaccine, you're over 37,000 that you've done out there and helped over from injured animals over 24,000. And what's crazy about those numbers, you didn't really start doing this until about 2015. So this is in less than 9 years, it's 8 years. That's crazy.
Exactly. Yeah. Only in 2000. Only because my when I started helping the dogs, I never saw back. Like I never thought that I'll go back and focus on some other things. Because the dog Zara, she changed my life. She was the one who changed my life. She was the one who forced me to think about dogs. And I started with dogs, but I then after that I started seeing so many abandoned cows and most of the cases, cruelty cases. Then I formed a team, and now we have 22 members inside the shelters, and among them 7 technical teams: veterinarians, vet technicians, and cleaners, dog catchers, and communication officers. And yeah, so that's how I started, and we helped so many animals.
Well, so here's some questions for you. So you've got Nepal's got all these stray animals there, and you are doing, like you, as your term used, birth control, but basically spay and neuter, which we would use here in protection, and over here in the U.S. Are you seeing changes now that you've created these programs? I know there's some other organizations in Nepal doing the same thing. Are you seeing the population go down, or is it still going up? Because one of the things that most people don't understand, if you grow up here in the U.S., culturally things are different in different parts of the world. People look at animals differently. The same, horrible thing that your neighbor did, but that's not unusual because they didn't grow up the way we've, the environment that our culture here is different.
Yeah, when I started, even that time, like there was a very few animal lovers.
Right.
And now the changes is like it's a vast difference. When I started and now, I can see so many animal lovers feeding dogs in the street, taking care of their own dog, and raising the voice if they see any animal cruelty. And definitely, a few years back, our government, they used to kill the dogs, no, to reduce the animal dogs. They used to kill the dogs with the rat poison. They used to use rat poison to kill the dogs,
Yeah.
because yeah, they believe that killing the dogs is the solution to reduce the number of the dogs in the street.
So, I mean, when there are people here in the US, you hear that, you can't believe that people do that. But in countries where one, the economics are different, two, they have a different culture, that's just a mindset. They just weren't educating themselves that they're actually sentient beings, that they have feelings the same as us.
Yeah, no, they used to poison the dogs, but now when animal lovers, animal activists, and organizations started, raising the voice against such kind of cruelty, now they are focusing in birth control. But there are so many animal organizations for human, but for animals, we can count in a hand. We have all over the Nepal only 15, 16 organizations, and who most of them are focusing in animal birth control. And this is the first time in Nepal this year that Kathmandu metropolitan city, they have allocated budget for sterilization,
Right.
and they have finished uh, dogs in KMC, Kathmandu metropolitan city, but still other adjoining municipalities, like they don't want to listen to us. Like I had to go all the time to convince them, to allocate budget for this, but they don't want to listen to us. But what I believe is, like, only this is the only one solution to reduce the number of the dogs in the streets. Like sterilization is the only one way.
So, one thing I read too, that when you first got started, and we can get into some of the other animals that you're helping as well, there was no animal welfare act. So, is there one now?
No, we don't have animal welfare act yet, but we have few animal welfare standards, like live animal transportation standards, some guidelines, but still we don't have act. So that's the reason, like, we are advocating for it, and hopefully we'll have soon. And that's the reason, if there is some kind of cruelty cases, when you go to the police, to complain about the culprit, like, we hardly punish them.
So, with you're one of those people that just take on everything, I think, because here you are, you're not an animal lover. Now you sell your house, you've got a sanctuary, but you took that many steps further. Like you looked at and you saw the animal cruelty of farm animals, the way they transport them there, and you started working on that too. So let's kind of tell everybody what you're doing there and the reason why you're doing it, so they understand that.
Yeah, the first, Nepal is the only one country, like, where we worship animals, right? And Nepal is the only one country, like, where we celebrate festival with animals, like, dog festival, cow festival, and but beside that, like, rest of the day, they really don't care about animals, and the situation of animals are, in my language, I will really say that's not good in Nepal. The reason is, like, we have very few people and few organizations who are working for animal welfare, for advocating for animal welfare. We are not even we're talking about animal rights. We are now only talking about animal welfare and asking for the welfare act. So situation is really not good, and there are why I'm saying this is, like, because whatever, like, I rescue the dogs and other animals from the street, most of the cases are abused by humans, not with the animals.
Of course.
Yeah.
Always. It's always that way. So, one of the things that what I really love, and it's actually, what I've read about this too, is that it's some other countries are starting to do it. So you have basically the Day of the Dog, which is called Kukur Tihar. Is that how you pronounce it? Kukur Tihar during the Diwali festival.
Kurtiar, yeah.
So how do you pronounce? What's the correct way of pronouncing that?
You pronounced very well, Kukurtihar.
Right, and I love that one of the mottos is that they have an old adage that says, "Every dog has its day."
Hmm.
It's a Hindu saying,
Exactly.
and so I know it's like the festival itself, again, I don't speak Hindu, so I'm trying. Diwali festival is like 4 or 5 days, and the second day is the day of the dog, and then the other days is they're celebrating other animals, right?
Yeah, Tihar, like, yeah, you pronounce very well. It's a Kukur Tihar. Okay, exactly. Actually, it calls Tihar festival. It's Tihar.
Yeah.
Hindus call it, Nepalese people, they call it Tihar and Deepavali, but Indian also celebrate this festival, so they pronounce it Diwali.
Diwali, okay.
Diwali, yeah. So we call it Tihar, and Tihar is one of my very favorite festival. And only this is the festival. Actually, in Nepal, 365 days, we have more than 365 festivals.
Well, that's a good thing. So I'm going to read some of the stuff I read about the Tihar Diwali festival when you talk about the dog. So it's a celebration of the bond between humans and dogs, and it's a manifestation of the gratitude for loyalty and companionship that animals bring to our lives. What a great way to do things, and I love the way they say everything about it.
Yeah, like, in this festival, that the reason is that the festival is very unique, and it is also called Festival of Light, and it involves celebrating with animals, particularly Kukur Tihar, dog festival. I'll call it dog festival for you, and so we called it Kukur Tihar. And this festival, like Hindu festival, this annual Hindu festival, like, originating in Nepal, falls on the second day of Tihar, and which is usually on October or in November, depend on the calendar. And during the Tihar festival, various animals, including cows, crows, ox, and dogs, celebrate. And Tihar is dedicated to our canine companions. On this day, people worship dogs to please Yama. And let me explain you a little bit about this festival.
Great.
Yama is the god of death. Okay.
Okay.
And dogs are adorned with the tika, a traditional marking of their foreheads with red color, and wear flower garlands around their neck, and that flower is marigold. And people also offer them various kind of foods, and it is widely believed that dogs were first domesticated in Nepal and Mongolia, making them an integral part of Nepalese culture for many hundreds of years. In an ancient epic poem titled Mahabharat, maybe you have read about Mahabharat.
Mm-hmm.
The five legendary brothers are accompanied by a dog on their way to heaven. They are going to the heaven, okay,
Right.
after finishing all the war and everything. And during that epic, all the brothers beside Yudhishthir. Yudhishthir is the eldest one, and his dog perishes along the way. And Yudhishthir makes it to meet the king of the god, who welcome him to the heaven, but tells him that he must leave his dogs behind, because he's just a dog. And Yudhishthir refused to enter the heaven without his dogs, and said that he will go back to the earth if the king of god not allow his dog, with him. And the king of the god is very impressed by his action and ends up opening the gates to the heaven to both him and his dogs. And this is the reason behind, that the Hindu people in Nepal worshipping dogs, and in Kukur Tihar. And we celebrate, like we Sneha Care, we celebrate this festival with all our visitors, animal lovers, along with our 170 dogs. And many animal lovers take part in this festival. And the good thing is, like we have received numerous messages and emails for different countries now, because different people from different countries, they participate in this festival. So
Right.
yeah, now they express that they want to celebrate same kind of festival in same day, like on the same day, in their country. So I think, Mark, it's a very great news that everybody wants to celebrate this festival with their company.
Well, I know that what I read is they've done it now in Mexico City, and one of the things too that I read is they put the red tika, the red mark on their forehead, and that's a mark of respect and dignity. So, and they put, like you mentioned, they put garlands and flowers all over the dogs, and then and everybody feeds them special treats at the end of the day, regardless if they're their dog, it's just the street dogs and everybody. So it's them, it's just a thank you to them for being your companion. I think it's great.
Yeah, exactly. So Kukur Tihar, like all over the Nepali Hindi people, they celebrate. And yeah, you're right that in Mexico also, like they have several. Now we have receiving messages from US also, and because in this festival, like few our volunteers, they were here with us, and now they are keep sending us messages as how to celebrate this and how to celebrate same festival on same day. So yeah, we are explaining that the hopefully coming festival. So they will celebrate in US as well.
So I know you have a different calendar. So what month is it? What month on our month would that be? When do you do that?
Yeah, usually on November, usually like it celebrates like on November.
Okay.
Mhm.
Because I was thinking there's some organizations that I'm always talking to that would probably love to do that. And eventually, if you get a movement going, you could literally have the day of the dog.
Yeah, and I'm here like whoever listening your program, and if anybody want to celebrate this festival with their companion in same day, I would love to explain and write them how to do this, how to celebrate this.
Yeah, I'm literally sitting here as we're talking, thinking about there's a couple places where I live here in the U.S. that do some kind of dog things every now and then. I'll bet you anything one of them in particular would do it. Probably wouldn't have a ton of people because they just don't know enough, but it could be one of those things that could grow. I think it'd be a great thing. Be fun.
Yeah.
So let's get back to your organization. So, and I want to kind of help everybody that's listening out there. So you're now helping all these dogs. You've got your organization or your facility with a sanctuary for the dogs. But are you going out in the community and helping the injured dogs still as well as that?
Yeah, exactly. Like I cannot bring all the dogs in the shelter. So that's the reason we have started mobile treatment since from 2017.
Mobile?
Mobile treatment. It calls mobile treatment and mobile treatment because why we started this is because we want to make community responsible as well. Community people are,
Sure. Education.
yeah, education and awareness, because most of the time when they see dogs with skin disease and some kind of disease, they think that touching the dogs, street dogs, like makes them sick. So that's the reason we want to educate people. So that's the reason we have started mobile treatment. So we go to the community to help the dogs, and we want to make responsible those community people. So, and once the dog get recovered, then we stopped going there. Otherwise, like until and unless dog get recovered, we follow up and we go there. And another thing is we are focusing on uh, human education. We are going to the school teaching the children, because when I read in the school, when I go to the school, we don't have anything about animal welfare in our curriculum, in our education system, right?
Sure.
I never read about the animal welfare. I have never ever read that we have to be kind with animals, have to be, we have to love animals. So that otherwise, like I could have, started helping animals since when I was small. So that's the reason we are going to the school. We are teaching the children, and we are taking classes, and we are doing taking classes of 45 minutes. When and during that time, we are showing them, videos of our shelters, animals, and we are teaching them to be compassionate for animals, and how to be kind with animals. And another thing is what we do is like we invite all the children and schools and teachers to see our animals, in the shelter. So nowadays like there are so many schools and students, like is more students are coming to the shelter, and they are saving their pocket money, and they are donating us, and they are buying the biscuits, cookies, sometimes sack, for shampoos. So yeah, people are changing. And another thing is we are not only focusing in birth control education, and we are promoting veganism as well.
Right. Well, what I'm finding is as I talk to different rescue groups in other parts of the world, again, we can use some education here in the US as well, but what the smarter rescue groups are doing is they're teaching the younger generation, because the older generation, not to say that they can't learn, they were raised differently. But if you're raised to actually respect the animal, they're probably going to treat them better and also not have the issues of them be getting rid of them as a stray or poison them or do all the other crazy things that they do.
Yeah, so that's the reason. Like we are focusing. Most of our focus group is students and children, because very it's very hard to change adult people, but it's very it's like the teaching the children. Like I think this is the only one solution. So that's the reason we are doing this, and even we are doing advocacy with the government. To keep to put animal welfare in curriculum as well. So hopefully, let's see, like if.
What I think is interesting, at least for me, and again, this is probably from a lack of not having great education about the culture, but my understanding of the Hindu religion, they respect animals, and the fact that they're starting to now, but they weren't respecting them prior to this, it always kind of surprises me because if you think about in your part of the world too, you have Buddhists and all that too, they respect insects, everything, and the fact that they haven't done it again, it's cultural, but it kind of surprises me.
Yeah, exactly. Like you were right that like Nepal is the only one country, as I explained, that we celebrate lots of festival with animals, right?
Right.
But despite this celebration, like, and we worship cows, we worship ox, we worship dog, we worship crows, and most of the animals. But despite this celebration, the overall treatment of animals in Nepal faces challenges. If cows and cow Nepal is the most of the people are Hindus. That's the reason, like they don't slaughter cows. But if cows get unproductive, unproductive cows and their calves, like they suffer a lot, and they just when they become unproductive,
Right.
they just abandon them on the street to die.
they don't have a need for them anymore, even though they should treat them the same as a thing, as a being. They forget that, and that's education. The advantage you had. So, the advantage that the dogs now have and the people around is they have people like yourself. But the advantage you have is what I would call your guiding angel, Zara, is the one that put you on this path.
Yeah, she was the one who changed my life. She was the one I never became. I never became animal lover. Like if Zara never came to my life, but yeah, she was poisoned, and I couldn't punish my neighbor. I knew that who poisoned my dog, and I complained about my neighbor, but I couldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And one of the things I read that was really heartwarming for me is she still you have a picture of her next to your bed when you go to bed, and she's there looking at you and kind of protecting you still.
yeah, I have. Like now I'm in my room and I'm just next to my bed, beside my bed. Yeah. She's all the time with me. Reason is because sometimes I become, because I am a human being. I am a human. I'm not an animal, right?
Right.
So I still have a human nature, right? I wish I have a nature like animals, but I am a human. So that's the reason sometimes I get demotivated. Sometimes I go sometimes people, people that it's a human nature that people used to complain to me that, oh, why, like, we asked you, we sent you the rescue message, Sneha, and we called you, you did not come. I wish I'm a Spider Man and I could help all the animals all over the world, but I cannot go everywhere. This is my problem, right?
Well, yeah, but it sounds to me like you're doing good one. But I think you should call Zara your guiding angel because obviously, I always say this: you go down a path, you never know where it's going to take you, and she's taking you to this path that you have now. So I have a couple of questions, and then I know again it's really late there because you're 12 hours ahead of us. Do you have volunteer veterinarians that come from other parts of the world that come and could help you guys out? Or would that be something, for our listeners that may have either a veterinarian or happen to have a really good vet that does stuff like that? Do you welcome new veterinarians sometimes to come and help you guys out?
Yeah, like in the before earth, no, no, before COVID, before this pandemic, like world vets, like world vets, right? So world vets, they are full of volunteer, like they used to come here in Nepal, world vets, and they have helped. They neutered more than 1,000 dogs in 2 years,
Wow.
but after the pandemic, after COVID, like we don't have any volunteers. But yeah, I would love to welcome like any veterinarians if they have technical knowledge. If they don't have, also I would love to welcome everyone, whoever wants to come and volunteer with us.
Oh, that would be great. Part of the problem we have here, and I think it's probably worldwide, is during COVID here in the United States, a lot of people adopted dogs from shelters that probably shouldn't have. And now what's happened is a lot of those dogs came back. So the shelters are very full here, one. Two is most of the veterinarians in their clinics are short of staff because some people didn't come back. So everybody's working really hard. So it's hard for people to leave. But that's why we had this podcast so we can get stuff out there. And based on what you just said, if veterinarians want to do it, and I talk to them regularly, and I'll bring it up for you, but also for people that are maybe traveling and want to go to Nepal, what a great opportunity to come and help you guys out, even for a few hours if they could, to give back to you and just to do something to give back to the community.
Like anybody, if they want to come and volunteer with us, like like I would like to welcome them from my heart. The reason is because we have more than 170 dogs, cow like 20 cows, 5 buffaloes, like who escaped from the slaughterhouse, and like 20 cattle from the street, and 7 pigs, birds, and so many animals in my sanctuary. So that's the reason all of them want to play with humans. They want, like they want to cuddle, they want to go out, they want to go for walk. And we have lots of work, but my problem is like I cannot hire more people. I cannot afford.
Sure.
So we are looking for the volunteers. So anybody wants to come, I really like want to welcome them.
So for you guys that are listening out there, here's a great opportunity. I know I have other rescue groups too, but I'm a big advocate of anybody wherever they go, going and volunteer someplace because I guarantee you that your vacation, if you're on vacation, will be way more rewarding to do that. So Sneha, how do people get a hold of you? Social media, email, all that. What's the best way for people to communicate to you or even to find out information about what you're doing? I know you've got your website and you can give that to everybody. All the stuff, any information you can give would be really helpful.
Yeah, like anybody, if anybody want to connect with me, they can, they can search Sneha's Care Facebook, and we have Facebook, we have Instagram, and we have website as well, www.snehacare.org, and they can contact me through my website, my social media, and yeah.
So what I'll do for everybody that's listening as well, when, if you're hearing this, the episode's out now, but obviously we record it before it goes out. In the description for the podcast, I'm going to have all that information for you too. So if you go back after listening, I'll have the web address and the Instagram and whatever else that she has there for you to look. So that way you can get a hold of her. And also you can always contact me too, and I can certainly put you guys together. Now, one last thing, and I prepared Sneha this, and I was going to tell the joke just because of a communication stuff. As everybody knows, and I know you're cringing before I even say it, I always have a animal joke at the end. And I'm going to ask Sneha, and I had to explain a little bit this to her, but she may get this or may not, but for you guys, she'll get out there, and I know you're going to cringe. So, Sneha, what type of markets do dogs avoid?
I think flea market.
Flea market, exactly. That's a great answer. And you never want to get fleas. And I know everybody out there is cringing. So if you've got a better joke, please email me at mkyle@forrealpodcast.com. If you want your children to tell the joke, I'll put them on. Please give it everybody. Everybody wants to hear a better joke than the ones I always have. But I really appreciate it. And again, if you've got somebody that's got a great story similar to Sneha's, or you've got constructive criticism, email me, mkyle@forrealpodcast.com. And I'd really appreciate anybody getting back to me for whatever reason. Sneha, first off, thanks so much for being here. I know, we're at almost 11 p.m. your time. I know you're busy. You've got all those dogs. You're out there saving the animal world, doing your things. And just you being the time to spread the word is just really, really on my end. I just really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mark, for inviting me to keep promoting animal welfare and keep promoting, vegan lifestyle. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And then for everybody else that's listening, from the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate you guys listening. I appreciate you letting other people know about the podcast. Obviously, without people listening, it's hard to keep it going. Tell other people to follow and listen, and you get to hear these kind of stories about these amazing people doing great things. And it really, really, thank you so much for real.
For real, 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 for real.
We're supported by Let's Walk, that's here to love your animals like our own.
Austin, Houston, and Denver. Let's Walk is here to love your animals like our own. From daily walks, play, in-house sleepovers, and more. Go to work, out on the town, or take a vacation knowing your pets are in the best hands. This woman-owned small business does it all. Check us out on Instagram at Let's Walk Austin, Houston, and Denver.
That concludes this episode of For Real with your host, Mark Kyle. For previous and future episodes of For Real, listen via all major podcast streaming sites.